Welcome to season 4. So, season 3 was all about clarity, market clarity, customers clarity, demand clarity, and sustainability. Now, we are shifting into the part that decides whether your business becomes stable or stays chaotic. That is, operations, systems, and scale. And I want you to open this season with a truth a lot of people resist because it sounds less exciting, but it's real. Systems matter more than hustle. Hustle can start a business, but hustle cannot run a business forever. Because if everything depends on your energy, your memory, your late nights, and you being always on, then business isn't strong. It's just leaning on you. Today, I will break down what systems actually are and why hustle breaks as you grow, and what you should systemize first without making it complicated. Let's talk about why people worship hustle in the first place. Hustle is praised because it's visible. You can see it, you can feel it, people can point to it. Hustle looks like working late, replying instantly, doing everything yourself, always being available. And from the outside, it looks heroic. It looks like commitment. But hustle is not strategy. A lot of times, hustle is just what happens when you don't have clarity, process, boundaries, and repeatable steps. So you fill the gaps with effort. You patch things up with your energy. You solve problems by pushing harder. And listen, sometimes hustle can be important, especially early on. But a business powered by hustle is basically a business powered by you. And that's not skill, that's dependency. Because the moment you get tired, sick, distracted, or life happens, everything starts slipping. Now, what is a system? Let's make it simple. A system is a repeatable way of doing something that produces a predictable result. That's it. Systems are not corporate bureaucracy. Systems don't have to be heavy. They don't need any fancy software. A system can be a checklist, a script, a template, a routine, or a standard way you do something every time. The point of a system is to reduce randomness because randomness is what creates stress. Most business stress isn't from working hard, it's from constantly breaking, constant surprises, constant last minute decisions, constant wait, what do I do here again? System reduces surprises, and when you reduce surprises, you reduce stress. Here is why hustle breaks at scale. Hustle works when business is small. When you have a few customers, you can wait. You can remember everything in your head. You can fix issues manually. But when demand increases, hustle turns into a problem because more customers mean more communication, more delivery steps, more support requests, more follow ups, and more chances for small errors. And without a system, a few things starts happening. Quality becomes inconsistent. Customers get confused. Small mistakes starts costing you time and money, and you feel behind all the time. And then you hit this dangerous moment. Your best day becomes your normal day, and your normal day becomes unsustainable. Growth doesn't just create opportunity. Growth exposes weak operations. It reveals where you are improvising. It reveals where you are relying on memory. It reveals where you are relying on motivation. Now, let's talk about the real purpose of systems. Most people think systems are about speed. If I build systems, everything will run faster. Sometimes, yes, but that's not the main point. The real purpose of system is consistency. Systems create reliability, predictable outcomes, fewer mistakes. And this is huge, less mental load. Because when you don't need to decide everything every day, you get your brain back. And your brain is the rarest resource in business. Your ability to think clearly, plan, lead, and make good decisions. That's your advantage. Systems protect that. This is how you protect quality. Quality is not maintained through motivation. Quality is maintained through structure because motivation changes. Some days you feel unstoppable, other days you feel tired. But customers don't care what kind of day you are having. They care about consistent delivery. Systems protect your customers from your worst days, and they protect you from constant pressure. This is why scalable businesses aren't run by superhumans, they are run by structure. Now, here's the practical part. What do you systemize first? A common mistake early businesses make is they try to systemize everything and then they get overwhelmed and nothing gets done. So instead, systemize two categories first: what happens most often and what causes the most pain. Think of your operations like highways. There are a few core routes that everything flows through. Start with five areas. First, lead intake. How do inquiries come in? Where do they go? How quickly do you respond? What do you say? Second, your sales conversation. Do you have a repeatable structure or are you reinventing the conversation every time? Third, onboarding. After someone pays, what happens next? What do they receive? What steps do they follow? How do you reduce confusion? Fourth, delivery. What are the steps that consistently produce the results you promise? What must happen every time, no matter what? Fifth, support. How do you handle issues without chaos and back and forth? What's the process so you don't get stuck in endless messaging? If those five areas become stable, growth becomes safer. Not necessarily easier, but safer. Now, let me give you the simplest starting point. People ask, what system should I use? What tools should I use? But the simplest system is documentation. Write down what works. When something goes well, document it. When something breaks, document it. When customers keep asking the same question, document it. You don't need expensive tools to start, you need repeatable actions. Systems usually evolve like this: notes, then checklists, then templates, then automation. That order matters. Don't jump to automation if you haven't even written down the steps. So, here is the mindset shift I want you to live with today. The goal is not to be a hero, the goal is to build something that works without heroics. In the next episode, we'll get practical: how to document your process so anyone can follow it, including you, on a tired day. Because season 4 is where businesses stop feeling chaotic and start becoming stable. Thank you for listening. See you in the next one. Welcome back. In season 1 of episode 4, we talked about why systems matter more than hustle. Today, we are going to do the most underrated step in business systems, that is documentation. And before your brain says paperwork, let me clarify what I mean. Not corporate manuals, not 40 pages of SOPs, not something you write once and never open again. Practical documentation, the kind that makes your business easier to run, the kind that saves you hours, the kind that prevents you from repeating yourself 10 times a week. Because here's the truth: if you can't explain how your business works, you can't improve it, and you definitely can't scale it. So, in this episode, I'm going to show you exactly how to document your process using three simple tools: checklists, templates, and scripts. So, your work becomes repeatable even when you are tired. Let's talk about why documentation feels annoying. Documentation is invisible work. No one claps when you write a checklist. No one praises you for creating a template. It doesn't feel like progress because you are not doing the work. You are preparing the work. But you feel the benefits later because documentation gives you fewer repeated explanations, fewer mistakes, faster onboarding, less mental overload. And that's the real goal. Not beauty, not perfection, repeatability under pressure. Because if your business only runs smoothly when you feel fresh and motivated, then you don't have a system. You have a mood dependent business, and that's exhausting. Now, what should you document first? This is important. Don't document everything. That's how people get overwhelmed and quit. Instead, document what happens often, causes confusion, creates mistake, and drains your energy. For most small businesses, the first four areas are pretty universal. First, lead handling, how you respond when someone messages you. Second, the sales conversation, how you explain pricing, packages, and next steps. Third, onboarding, what happens after payment so customers feel guided and confident. Fourth, delivery steps, the process that helps you deliver consistently without missing things. If those four becomes clear, your business immediately feels lighter, not because you are working less, but because you are thinking less while working. Now, here's the good news. Most early documentation fails into three simple forms. You don't need fancy tools, you don't need special software, you don't need to build a system like a large company. Most of what you need is checklists, templates, and scripts. Let's break them down. A checklist is step by step tasks. It's perfect for delivery, onboarding, and quality control. A template is reusable text or documents. It's perfect for emails, messaging, proposal, invoices, and follow ups. A script is a repeatable language and structure. It's perfect for sales calls, objection handling, pricing conversation, anything where you tend to ramble or hesitate. These are the tools that reduce 80% of the chaos, and that's not an exaggeration. Let's start with the checklist. A good checklist should be short, clear, in order, and easy to follow when you are tired. Here's the standard I want you to use. Write your checklist like you are writing to a future version of yourself who has no patience. Not because you are lazy, because you are human. So use simple language like send welcome messages, confirm payment, collect requirements, set deadline, deliver draft, request feedback, close project and ask for referral. A checklist isn't for intelligence, it's for consistency. Even surgeons use checklists, even pilots use checklists, not because they don't know what to do, but because the cost of missing a step is too high. Your business is the same. Missing one step creates delays, confusion, and rework. So, checklist protects your time. Now let's talk about templates. Templates saves time, but more importantly, they reduce mistakes and emotional labor because think about how many times you rewrite the same message, how many times you explain pricing, how many times you type out onboarding instruction. That's not just time, it's a mental energy. The most powerful early templates are usually your first reply to an inquiry, your pricing explanation, a basic proposal format, payment confirmation, onboarding instruction, a follow up message, and a polite no message. And yes, make a no template because when you are stressed, declining politely becomes harder than it should be. Templates keep your tone consistent. They make you sound professional even on days when you are not on the mood to be nice. And the point of template is not to copy paste mindlessly. It is to give you a base so you adjust details instead of reinventing words. That's how businesses stay consistent. Now, the third tool, scripts. Some people hear scripts and think it means sounding robotic, but that's not what I mean. Scripts are not about memorizing lines, scripts are about having a reliable structure. Because if you don't have a structure, here's what happens: you ramble, you over explain, you forget key points, or you avoid the hard part like pricing until it gets awkward. A simple sales call script can be as basic as: first, talk about their situation. Second, identify the real problem. Third, confirm urgency. Why now? Fourth, explain your approach. Fifth, share the price. Six, clarify next steps. That's it. Without a script, you are reacting. With a script, you are leading. Scripts reduce anxiety because you know what comes next, and they improve conversation because the conversation becomes clear, not messy. Now, let me give you the easiest rule for documentation, the documentation after success rule. Here is what this means: don't sit down and try to invent perfect systems from scratch. Instead, capture what already works. When you deliver something successfully, document it immediately. Write down what you did, in what order, what tools you used, what messages you sent, what problems came up, and how you handled them. When you close a sale, document it. Write down what you said, what objections came up, what made them say yes. Documentation should be built from evidence, not imagination, because evidence based processes are realistic. They match the real world and they are easier to repeat. So let's warp this up. The documentation isn't boring paperwork, it's how you reduce mistakes, it's how you save hours, it's how you make your businesses feel calmer. And if you want a simple starter goal after this episode, here it is: create one checklist, one template, and one script this week. One, not 10, just one of each. Because once you start, the business feels lighter and faster. In the next episode, we'll talk about a system that changes everything: your intake system, how you handle leads and inquiries without chaos, without losing good customers, and without living in your inbox. Season 4 is about building a business that feels calm. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last episode, we talked about documenting your process using checklists, templates, and scripts. Today, we are building something that affects your business every single week: your lead intake system. Because if leads come in and you handle them randomly, you get missed opportunities, inconsistent messages, stress, disorganized follow up, and the worst part, good prospects slipping away without you even realizing it. So let's be clear: a lead intake system isn't a luxury, it's a basic infrastructure. It's like having a front door, a reception desk, and a way to follow up. And today we'll build it simply, without fancy tools, without complexity, and without pretending you are a huge company. Let's start with why lead intake breaks most businesses. A lot of small businesses handle leads like this. Messages come in from everywhere: WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, email, calls, and you respond whenever you remember. Then later you are searching old chats like a detective. Wait, who asked about pricing? Where was the person who wanted the packaging? What did I promise? What deadline did they mention? And that creates chaos, not because you are careless, but because humans are not designed to manage scattered information reliably. When intake is messy, follow up becomes emotional. You follow up only when you feel like it. Response becomes random. Customers lose trust. A system fixes this because it removes guesswork. Now, what does intake actually mean? Intake is basically how leads arrive, how you capture their info, how you respond, how you move them to the next step. And your goal is to move from random chat to clear pipeline. Even if your pipeline is simple, even if you are solo, even if you are just starting, the point is not fancy, the point is organized. A good intake system has three parts, just three. Part 1: one primary entry point. Pick one main channel that becomes your front door. It could be WhatsApp, it could be email, it could be your Facebook page. But choose one main. Part 2: a quick capture method. A simple way to collect the minimum information you need: name, need, urgency, contact details, and maybe budget. Part 3: a follow up routine, a habit you follow daily or every 48 hours. And let me say this clearly: follow up is not optional, follow up is revenue. Most people don't lose sales because their offer is bad, they lose sales because they didn't follow up. If you build these three pieces, intake becomes stable. Step 1: create a single front door. This is the fastest way to reduce chaos. You can still receive leads from other places, yes, but your reply should guide people back to the main door. Here is an example you can literally use. Thanks for reaching out. To help you properly, please send the details here on WhatsApp or email. I'll reply within time. That message does two powerful things. It reduces scattered conversations and it trains customer to follow your process. And here's the thing: process builds trust. People trust businesses that feel organized, even if the business is small. Step 2: ask the minimum questions that matter. A lot of businesses ask too many questions too early and it scares people off. So keep it simple. Ask questions like: what are you trying to achieve? When do you need it? What have you tried so far? And optionally, what's your budget range? Now, I'll add a quick note about budget. In some markets, asking budget early is normal. In other markets, it feels too direct. So use it based on your audience. But the goal here is not interrogation, it's clarity. Because these questions do two things: they filter out the bad fit leads and they reveal urgency. And urgency predicts conversation. People who have a deadline, a pain point, or a strong reason, they move faster. Step 3: define your response timing. Speed matters not because you must reply instantly, but because response time signals professionalism. If you reply instantly one day and then disappear for 2 days the next time, customers don't know what to expect, and uncertainty creates doubt. So choose a standard. For example, within 2 hours during business time or within 24 hours, always. Pick something realistic, then follow it consistently. Consistency creates calm for you and the customer. Step 4: build a simple pipeline. You don't need software, you don't need fancy CRM to start. A pipeline can be a notebook, a notes app, a spreadsheet, or even a simple list in your phone. And your stages can be very basic: new, replied, qualified, proposal sent, waiting decision, won, lost. That's it. And here's why this matters: a pipeline turns chaos into a visible flow. When business is visible, it becomes manageable. You stop relying on memory. You stop relying on I'll remember later, because later is where leads disappear. Alright, let's wrap this up. A lead intake system isn't complicated, it's just structure. One front door, a quick capture method, a follow up routine, a simple pipeline. And once you build this, something changes. Your business starts feeling calmer, your follow ups improve, and you stop losing good leads quietly. In the next episode, we'll turn leads into a consistent sales process, a sales system that doesn't rely on your mood. Because if sales only happen when you feel confident, your business will always feel unstable. Season 4 is about reliability. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last episode, we built a lead intake system so inquiries don't get lost and your businesses don't run on chaos. Today, we are building the next layer: a sales system, not a sales personality, not a motivational mindset, a system. Because if your sales depend on how confident you feel that day, your revenue becomes unpredictable. And unpredictable revenue creates stress, which makes confidence even worse. So, today we are going to build a sales system that works even if you are tired, even when you don't feel ready, even when your energy is low. Let's talk about why sales feel random for most people. Most founders sell like this: they explain everything, they talk too much, they adjust the offer constantly, they change the price emotionally, they chase people who aren't serious, and then sales starts feeling heavy. It feels like pressure, like you are constantly convincing, constantly hoping. And here's the real issue: it's usually not lack of talent, it's lack of structure. Structure reduces anxiety, and structure tells you what to do next. A script, whether it's in your head or written down, protects you from improvising under pressure. When you don't have to improvise, you feel calmer, you sound clearer, and people trust you more. So, what's the purpose of a sales system? A sales system exists to do three things. First, qualify. You identify who's serious and who's not. Second, clarify. You help the buyer understand value and process. Third, close. You create a clean decision point. If your sales conversations don't do those three things, they turn into endless talking. And endless talking is exhausting. It drains your energy, it kills focus, and it usually leads to nothing. So, a sales system helps you keep it simple, clean, and repeatable. Now, I'm going to give you a simple 6 step sales system you can use for almost any business. This can work for services, coaching, agency, freelancers, and even product businesses that involve conversation. Here are the 6 steps. Step 1: confirm the situation. You are basically saying, okay, tell me what's going on. You can ask, tell me a bit about what you are trying to achieve. And then you listen. Step 2: Identify the real pain, not the surface problem, the real problem. Questions like what's not working right now? What happens if this stays unsolved? These steps matter because people don't buy because something is nice. They buy because something is painful, urgent, or costly. Step 3, confirm urgency. This is the why step. Ask, why are you looking at this now? What timeline are you working with? Urgency changes everything. It predicts whether someone will actually move or just browse. Step 4, explain your approach. This is where you show them you have a method. Keep it simple. Outcome, then steps, then timeline. For example, here's the outcome we are going for. Here is how we'll get there, step by step. And here's what the timeline looks like. Step 5, share price and terms. Clear, calm, direct. This is the price, this is what it includes, this is how payment works. No apology, no over explaining. Step 6, next step. Make it specific. If you want to proceed, the next step is or I'll send the invoice and once your payment is confirmed, you will receive onboarding instructions. That six-step structure prevents chaos because it keeps the conversation moving forward instead of drifting. Now let's talk about something many founders avoid, qualification. A lot of people avoid qualifying because they are scared of losing a customer. They think if I ask questions, they'll disappear. But here's the truth. Qualification protects you. It prevents you from building your business around low urgency, low budget, high drama, unclear expectations. And those situations are the one that create burnout, not the work itself. The customers who are unclear, uncommitted, or unrealistic. Qualifying questions are not rude, they're professional. Here is a few examples you can use. What outcome would make this successful for you? What's your budget range for this? Who makes the final decision? What do you want to start with? Serious customers appreciate clarity. They actually feel safer when you ask these things. And an unserious customer, they usually disappear. That's a win because it saves your time. Now, the most important part of any sales system is the decision point. Many sales conversations fail because they never reach a decision point. They end with, I'll think about it. And listen, sometimes people do need to think, but that's normal. But I'll think about it is not a decision, it's a delay. So, your job is to create a clean close, a respectful decision moment. You can say something like, would you like to move forward? If yes, I'll send the invoice and onboarding step. That's it. A decision point is not pushy, it's clarifying. It helps buyers stop drifting. Now, objection handling. Objections are not enemies, they are questions. Common objections are usually about price, time, trust, or uncertainty. So, the system response is simple clarify value, reduce risk, offer next step. For example, if someone says yes, but then says it's expensive, you can say, I understand the price concern. The reason it's priced this way, it is because it includes a scope and it delivers an outcome. If you want, we can start with a smaller version first and expand later. Notice what that does. No pressure, just clarity. And if the objection is trust, you can say, totally fair. If it helps, I can share examples of past results, testimonials, or how the process works step by step. Again, no push, just reducing uncertainty. Now, here's the final step that makes this powerful. Turn sales into documents. Once your sales system works, convert it into a written script, a template for common answer, pricing sheets, a one page offer document, because every sales conversation you repeat becomes easier. You stop reinventing your words, you stop improvising, you stop selling based on mood, you start selling based on structure. And, and that's where your revenue becomes more stable. All right, let's work this up. A sales system isn't about being confident all the time, it's about having a structure that you can follow even when your confidence is low. Qualify, clarify, close, 6 steps. A clean decision point. calm objection handling, and then document what works. In the next episode, we are going to explain what to do on onboarding, how to onboard customers so delivery becomes smoother and retention improves. Because onboarding is where most businesses lose trust early. Season 4 is about removing friction. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last episode, we built a sales system that doesn't depend on confidence. Today, we are moving into the part where many businesses lose trust quietly: onboarding. Onboarding is what happens after someone says yes. It's the bridge between promise and delivery. And here's why it matters. If onboarding is unclear, customers get anxious, misunderstanding starts early, scopes get messy, support load increases, but if onboarding is strong, delivery becomes easier, customers feel safe, retention improves, referrals increase. So, today we are going to make onboarding simple and repeatable, something you can do the same way every time, even when you are busy. Let's talk about why onboarding is more important than most people realize. A lot of businesses treat onboarding like a formality. They think once they pay, we'll figure it out. But customers don't relax after paying. They actually become more alert because now they are thinking, did I choose the right provider? What happens next? When will I see progress? What do you need from me? Onboarding answers these questions. It turns uncertainty into structure. And when you remove uncertainty, you reduce future problem. This is why onboarding is not a nice extra. It's a part of operation. So what's onboarding really? Onboarding is a process that does three things. First, it confirms expectations, what's included, what's not, the timeline, and who's responsible for what. Second, it collects required inputs, everything you need from the customer, so you can deliver successfully without guessing. Third, it creates a clear next step so the customer feels momentum immediately. Onboarding is not just welcome, onboarding is operational clarity. Now I'm going to give you a simple onboarding checklist you can adapt to almost any businesses. This works for services, agencies, freelancers, consultants, pretty much anything with projects. Step 1: send a welcome message, short, professional, confident, something like, "Thanks for choosing us. Here's what happens next." Step 2: confirm scope. What will you deliver? What will you not deliver? And one calm line that saves you later. Anything outside this is a separate scope. Step 3: confirm the timeline, start date, milestones, final delivery date, and response expectations from both sides because delays are usually communication delays. Step 4: collect inputs. Ask what you need: files, access, requirement, examples, preferences, whatever helps you deliver with and without back and forth. Step 5: confirm the communication channel. Where will updates happen? WhatsApp, email, a shared document. Pick one main channel for updates so nothing gets scattered. Step 6: confirm payment terms. Is it fully paid, partially paid, milestone payments? If there is anything remaining, be clear now before work gets deep. Step 7: send the next action. What will you do within the next 24 hours? Even a small next step matters. This checklist removes uncertainty, and when uncertainty disappears, trust increases. Now, let's talk about a tiny thing that prevents big conflicts: the scope sentence. Most onboarding problems are actually scope problems. Scope problems happen when customers assume extras are included. You feel awkward setting limits and boundaries aren't stated early. So here's the fix: one clear sentence. For example, this package includes X and Y. Anything outside that will be quoted separately. Short, calm, professional. And I want you to hear this: scope clarity is a form of kindness. It protects the customer from disappointment and it protects you from resentment and burnout. Now, here is how onboarding improves delivery. When onboarding is strong, you get better inputs, you reduce back and forth, you avoid rework, you deliver faster. and the customer trusts the process. Weak onboarding creates rework, and rework is one of the biggest hidden costs in business because rework isn't just extra work, it's extra communication, extra frustration, extra time lost. Good onboarding prevents rework before it starts. Let's add one simple rule that changes everything: the first 24-hour rule. Within 24 hours of payment, the customer must feel momentum. Even small momentum matters. For example, you send the onboarding message, you collect requirements, you confirm the timeline, you share what step you are starting with. When customers feel progress quickly, trust increases. When nothing happens, anxiety increases, and anxiety creates difficult customers, not because they are bad people, because they are uncertain. So, your job is to replace uncertainty with visible structure. Now, the final step: turn onboarding into templates. Once you've done onboarding a few times, don't keep doing it from scratch. Turn it into an asset, a welcome template, a checklist, a simple requirements form, a timeline message. Then onboarding becomes consistent, fast, professional, and customers loves consistency because consistency feels safe and safety leads to retention. Retention leads to referrals. Let's wrap this up. Onboarding is the bridge between promise and delivery. It is where trust is either built or quietly lost. So keep it simple: a clear checklist, a scope sentence, a timeline, a single communication channel, and momentum within 24 hours. In the next episode, we'll talk about delivery, how to deliver consistently without burnout, because delivery is where most businesses collapse when demand increases. Season 4 is about building a calm machine. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last episode, we talked about onboarding, how to start every project the same way so customers feel safe and delivery becomes easier. Today, we are talking about the part most businesses struggle once the demand starts coming in: delivery. Not delivering once, delivering consistently. Because early success creates a new problem. You now have to perform repeatedly. And if delivery depends on your mood, your energy, or your memory, burnouts become inevitable. So today's episode is about building delivery system that produce consistent results without you destroying you. Let's start with why delivery becomes chaos in the first place. Delivery usually becomes chaos for three reasons. First, every project feels custom, even when it shouldn't. You treat every job like it's completely new, so you rebuild the process from scratch. Second, the process exists only in your head. So every time you deliver, you are improvising, figuring it out as you go, and that costs energy. Third, quality depends on energy. When you are fresh, you deliver high quality. When you are tired, quality drops. And then you compensate by overworking, which makes you even more tired. And I want to say this clearly: none of this is a character flaw. This isn't about discipline or motivation, it's a system gap. A delivery system replaces improvisation with structure. So, what is a delivery system really? A delivery system is a repeatable steps you follow, the checkpoints that prevent mistakes, and the standard you use to measure done. It's not about speed, it's about consistency, because consistency makes your output predictable, and predictability creates trust. Trust creates retention. Retention creates stability, and stability is what reduces stress long term. Most delivery systems have three layers. Think of them like three pillars holding up the work. Layer 1, the workflow, the steps you always follow. Layer 2, the quality checks, the points where you pause and verify before moving forward. Layer 3, the communication rhythm, how you update customers so they feel the progress without interrupting you all day. If one of these layers is missing, delivery becomes stressful. You might still get it done, but you'll feel like you are constantly fighting the process. Let's build layer 1, a default workflow. A default workflow is a standard sequence you follow every time. Even if the work varies, your structures should not. Here's a simple workflow you can adapt to almost anything. Step 1, confirm requirements. Step 2, create the first draft or first version. Step 3, send an update and get a feedback. Step 4, revise. Step 5, finalize. Step 6, deliver and close. Now the details can change based on your business, but the skeleton saves the time. And that matters because it reduces fatigue. Decision fatigue is a hidden burnout engine. It's not just a work that drains you, it's the constant micro decisions. What do I do next? What did I do last time? What did I miss? Where do I start? A default workflow removes these questions. Now, layer 2, quality checkpoints. Most mistakes don't happen randomly, they happen in predictable places. So you build checkpoints there. A checkpoint is basically a planned pause. It's a moment where you verify something before you move forward. Examples of checkpoints are before you start work, confirm scope and requirements. Before you send a draft, check for missing elements. Before final delivery, review formatting clarity and completeness. Before you close the project, confirm the customer got what they needed. And here's why checkpoints matter. They prevent rework. Rework is more exhausting than work because rework feels like failure and it doubles your effort for the same outcome. Quality systems reduce rework, and when rework goes down, burnout goes down. So a checkpoint is not slowing you down, it's protecting your time. Now, layer 3, communication rhythm. Customers don't only buy outcomes, they buy confidence, and confidence comes from updates. If customers don't know what's happening, they get anxious, and anxious customers message more. They ask more questions, they interrupt more, not because they are difficult, because they don't feel in control. A communication rhythm means customers know when to expect updates, and you don't get random interruptions all day. These projects feel controlled. This can be simple. You say, I'll update you every Thursday or Friday, or you will get a progress update every 48 hours, or even I'll send you an update at the end of each major milestone. Pick one that fits your business, but the point is, you want updates to be scheduled, not reactive. That creates calm for them and calm for you. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest burnout triggers, perfectionism. Burnouts often don't come from the volume alone, it comes from trying to make everything perfect. So you need a good enough standard, a clear definition of done. Ask yourself, what outcome did we promise? What level of quality matches the price? What matters most to the customer? Then deliver that standard because perfection is expensive. Consistency is profitable. And here's the paradox, most customers don't want perfection, they want reliability, they want clarity, they want the promised result on time. Alright, let's wrap this up. A delivery system is not about becoming faster, it's about becoming consistent. So focus on three layers, a default workflow, a quality checkpoint, and a communication rhythm. Then define what done means. So perfectionism doesn't slowly drain you. In the next episode, we'll talk about support. Customer support systems that don't destroy your time because support grows with customers and without a system, support becomes a full time crisis. Season 4 is about building stability. Thank you for listening. See you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last episode, we built delivery systems, workflows, quality checkpoints, and communication rhythm so you can deliver consistently without burnout. Today, we are talking about the thing that often breaks growing businesses quietly, customer support. Support is not optional. Even the best products create questions. Even the best services create confusion sometimes. But without a system, support turns into constant interruptions, emotional exhaustion, lost time, and eventually resentment. So, today we are building a support system that stays human without becoming chaos. Let's start with why support feels heavy. Support feels heavy because it's unpredictable. Messages can show up anytime. They often come with urgency and sometimes they come with emotion. And if you respond instantly every time, you train customers to expect instant access. That sounds like good service, but it's actually unsustainable. Good support is not always available. Good support is clear, consistent, reliable. Reliability beats speed because speed that you can't maintain becomes inconsistency, and inconsistency creates distrust. So, what's the goal of a support system? A support system exists to do three things. First, reduce repetitive question. Second, protect your time. Third, keep customers feeling safe. The goal is not to avoid support. The goal is to deliver support inside a predictable structure. Predictable structures create calm for your customers and for you. Let's build this in layers. Layer 1 is boundaries. Support begins with boundaries. And I want to say this clearly, boundaries are not rude, they are professional. Boundaries are just expectations. They tell customers how support works so they don't have to guess. Here's a simple examples of healthy boundaries. Support hours are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Response time is within 24 hours. If something is urgent, please mark it urgent in the message subject. You are not rejecting people, you are guiding them. And if you don't set boundaries, sometimes you end up supporting customers at the cost of your health. That is not good service. That is self destruction. And long term, it actually makes service worse because burnout people don't provide great support. Layer 2 is an FAQ that actually works. Most FAQs are useless because they are too general. They answer imaginary questions instead of real ones. A useful FAQ is built from repetition. It answers what people actually ask again and again. So here is how you build it. For 1 week, just write down every repeated question you receive. And you are looking for patterns like the top 10 questions, the top 10 misunderstandings, the top 10 how do I messages. Then turn those into short, clear answers, simple steps. And if your business needs it, add a screenshot or quick example. Here's the test. Every FAQ answer should reduce future messages. The purpose of an FAQ is not to look professional. The purpose is to reduce repetition. So you stop answering the same thing 50 times. Layer 3 is triage. Not all support issues are equal. If you treat everything as urgent, everything becomes urgent. Triage means sorting issues into categories. This is how hospitals work. This is how IT teams work. This is how any support system works at scale. Here is a simple triad structure. Level 1, simple. Quick answers, small clarifications, FAQ link. Level 2, important, requires actions, might take time. You schedule it or add it to your task list. Level 3, critical, system broken, payment issue, security issue, high risk. These are urgent and should be handled fast. Then you respond based on level. This protects your time and makes your support feel professional because customers feel like there is a process, not panic. Now let's add one rule that reduces chaos massively, the single support channel rule. Support becomes chaos when it arrives in five places: WhatsApp, Messenger, email, Instagram, calls, all at the same time. So choose one support system. 1. And then train customers politely. You can say something like, for support, please message here. It helps us respond faster and track issues properly. This isn't about controlling customers, it's about traceability. Single channel equals traceability. Traceability equals less stress. And I'm not exaggerating. This one change alone can reduce chaos by half because you stop hunting for messages, you stop missing things, you stop duplicating answers across apps. Now, here's a mindset shift that makes support easier. Support is also a product improvement tool. Support is not only a cost, it's an information. Repeated questions reveal unclear onboarding, confusing features, weak documentation, misaligned promises. Every support ticket is feedback, and if you fix the root cause, support volume drops over time. That's the goal. The best support system reduces the need for support, not by ignoring people, but by making things clearer upstream. Let's warp this up. Support doesn't have to be chaos, but it needs a system. So remember the layers, boundaries, and FAQ built from real repetition, triage that sorts issues by level, and a single support channel to keep everything traceable. And use support as feedback so support gets easier as your business improves. In the next episode, we'll talk about capacity, how to know when you are at capacity, and how to expand safely. Because growth without capacity planning becomes failure disguised as success. Season 4 is about stability under demand. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last episode, we built a support system, boundaries, FAQs, triage, so support doesn't destroy your time. Today, we are talking about the thing that decides whether growth feels exciting or terrifying. That is capacity. Capacity is simply how much work you can handle without quality dropping. And here's the hard truth: most businesses don't collapse from the lack of demand, they collapse when demand exceeds capacity and the founder reacts too late. So, today I'll help you recognize capacity limits early and expand safely without burnout, without chaos, and without disappointing customers. Let's talk about why capacity problems feel sudden. Capacity problems rarely show up overnight, they build quietly. It starts as I'm just busy this week. Then it becomes I am always busy. Then I am behind. Then I am drowning. And one reason this happens is because founders normalize pressure. They tell themselves this is just what it takes. But pressure is a signal. And if pressure becomes your normal state, your system is overloaded. Not because you are weak, because the business is asking for more than your current structure can handle. Now, what is capacity really? Capacity is not only time, it's bigger than that. Capacity includes time, energy, attention, emotional bandwidth, and system strength. Even if you technically have hours, your brain still has limits. When attention gets overloaded, predictable things happen. Mistakes increase, response time slows, customers feel neglected, you start avoiding messages, and you feel like you are constantly reacting. And I want you to hear this clearly. It's not laziness, it's overload. A business that respects capacity stays stable. So, what are the early warning signs that you are hitting capacity? Here are some common ones. Your delivery timeline starts slipping. You stop following your own checklist. You feel irritated at normal customer questions. You delay responses more than usual. Your quality becomes inconsistent. You can't think clearly about improvement anymore. You survive the day, but you don't build the business. Those are not personality issues, they are system signals. When these signals appear, you don't need more motivation, you need adjustment because motivation can't fix overload. Structure fixes overload. When you hit capacity, you basically have two options: expand or pause. Option 1: pause growth. That means you slow intake, you raise prices, you reduce scope, you stabilize your systems. Option 2: expand capacity. That means you improve processes, you hire help, you automate, you reduce manual works. Both options are valid. This is not a right versus wrong situation. But here's the key: expanding before stabilizing creates chaos. So the correct sequence is stabilize first, then expand. Because if the system is shaky, adding volume just multiples the weaknesses. Now let's talk about the safest way to expand capacity. This is the order I recommend because it prevents expensive mistakes. First, standardize. Make sure your work is repeatable. Default workflow, basic checklist, clear steps. Second, simplify. Remove unnecessary steps. If something adds stress but not value, cut it. Third, Template. Turn repeated work into templates, messages, documents, checklists, small systems. Fourth, automate only after you understand the workflow. Automation before clarity creates confusion. Fifth, delegate only after the task is documented. And I'll say this clearly, hiring without documentation is expensive because you pay someone and then you spend extra time training, correcting, and explaining repeatedly. Automation without clarity is messy because you automate the wrong process and multiply confusion. Systems first, then scaling. Now let's talk about one of the most misunderstood capacity moves, raising prices. A lot of founders think raising prices is greedy, but honestly, it's often the most responsible move. If demand is high and capacity is limited, raising prices does two things. It reduces low quality customers, the ones who demand more and values it less, and it increases margin so you can hire help or improve system. Low prices plus overload equals burnout. And here's the simple signal. If you are at capacity and customer still says yes easily, your price is probably too low. Let me give you a simple capacity planning rule you can use immediately. If adding one more customers makes you fear you're weak, you are at capacity. That doesn't mean you are failing. It means you have reached the edge of your current system. And at that point, you choose intentionally, pause or expand, but don't drift into overload. Drifting is where burnout happens. Choosing is where stability happens. Alright, let's work this up. Capacity is the difference between growth that feels exciting and growth that feels like panic. Capacity problems don't usually appear suddenly, they build quietly, and pressure becomes normal. So, watch the signals, respect the limits, and when you hit that edge, choose intentionally, pause, or expand. In the next episode, we'll talk about delegation, how to hire or outsource without losing control. Because scaling requires help, but help without structure creates new problems. Season 4 is about expanding safely. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last episode, we talked about capacity, how to know when you are at the limit, and how to expand safely. Today, we're talking about a step a lot of founders rush into and then regret. That is delegation. Hiring, outsourcing, getting help. Done well, delegation gives you leverage. Done badly, delegation creates mistakes, delays, reputation damage, and sometimes more work than before. So, today's episode is about delegating without losing control by creating structure, not hope. Let's start with why delegation fails so often. Delegation usually fails for one simple reason. People try to delegate from memory. They don't have documentation, they don't have checklist, they don't have quality standards. So, what happens? The helper guesses, and when the helpers guess, quality becomes inconsistent. Then founders get frustrated and conclude hiring doesn't work, outsourcing doesn't work, people can do it like I do. But the real problem isn't the person, it's that the process was never transferable. You can't delegate chaos, you can only delegate a system. Now, let's talk about the purpose of delegation because it's not just saving time. Delegation is about freeing your attention for high value work. High value work looks like improving your offer, strengthening your system, marketing thoughtfully, making strategic decisions, and building important customer relationships. If you spend all day on low level tasks, the business don't evolve. It just runs, and businesses that only runs eventually get stuck. Delegation protects evaluation and evolution. Now, what should you delegate first? Most founders delegate the wrong things first. They try to delegate critical work too early, work that requires judgment, creativity, or deep customer understanding. That's risky. So instead, start with low risk, repeatable tasks. Tasks like scheduling, data entry, formatting, basic customer support, editing, simple admin tasks. These tasks have three traits. They happen frequently, they don't require deep judgment, and they can be checked quickly. Delegating low risk tasks creates immediate breathing rooms, and that breathing room gives you the ability to think. Now, here's the rule that makes delegation safe: document first. Never delegate a task you cannot describe clearly. Before you delegate, create four things: a checklist, an example of good output, a clear definition of done, and common mistakes to avoid. Because if you cannot document the task, one of the two things is true. Either the task is too vague or you don't understand it well enough yet to hand it off. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's actually empowering. Documentation is not extra work, it's the work. Because documentation is what turns business from you doing things into a process that it can be repeatable. Now, let's talk about how to hire or outsource safely. Here is a simple sequence that prevents most delegation mistakes. Step 1: define the task. Be clear on the outcome you want. Don't just say, help me with marketing. Say things like, create and schedule 5 posts per week using this template. Step 2: create the checklist. Steps plus quality checkpoints. Step 3: do a small trial. One task, not a full role, not a big monthly contract, just one clear task as a test. Step 4: review quickly. Give clear feedback, not vague criticism. So instead of this isn't good, say here is what's missing, here is what to change, here is what done looks like. Step 5: repeat. Consistency comes through repetition. People don't learn your standard in one try. And here's the key: don't hand someone your entire business, hand them a small piece with clear boundaries. Now, a lot of founders fear delegation for one reason: quality loss. And that fear makes sense because your reputation is fragile. But the solution is not micromanagement, the solution is checkpoints. Micromanagement is emotional, checkpoints are structural. Here are simple quality control methods that work without hovering. Review the first three outputs closely, then loosen your involvement once the standard is met. Create a standard template so outputs naturally look consistent. Require a self check before submission, meaning the helper verifies against the checklist before sending it to you. And define what needs approval and what doesn't. Not everything should need your approval, or you are still the bottleneck. Good systems reduce the need for supervision. That's the goal: less supervision without lower standards. Now, let me tell you one of the hidden benefits of delegation. Delegation reveals weak process. If a helper can't do the task, it often means the steps were unclear, the standards were never defined, or you've been improvising without realizing. And that's actually good news because it forces you to clarify. And clarify is what makes scale possible. Not talent, not hustle, clarity. All right, let's warm this up. Delegation doesn't fail because people are incapable. Delegation fails because founders try to hand off chaos and call it a job. So start with low risk tasks. Document first, use trials, build checkpoints instead of micromanagement, and treat delegation as a way to strengthen your system, not just reduce workload. In the next episode, we'll talk about automation: what to automate first and what not to automate yet. Because automation can create leverage, but automation without clarity creates chaos. Season 4 is about building reliable scale. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. But automation can also be a trap when people use it to avoid clarity. So, this episode is about automation that actually helps: what you automate first, what not to automate yet, and how to keep automation from creating chaos. Because the goal isn't to build a complicated machine that looks impressive, the goal is to remove friction from your business so you can run it with less stress. Let's start with why people run to automation too early. People chase automation because it feels like a shortcut. They think if I automate, my business becomes easy. But here's the truth: automation doesn't fix a messy process, automation multiplies whatever you already have. If your process is clear, automation multiplies clarity. If your process is unclear, automation multiplies confusion. So the rule is simple: don't automate chaos, standardize first. And by standardize, I mean do the task the same way repeatedly. Write down the steps, create the template, then automate what's stable. Now, what is automation really? Automation is not magic. Automation is just a repeated action triggered by a condition, producing the same result every time. That's it. Good automation removes repetitive work, repeated communication, manual tracking, avoidable mistakes. And the best test is simple: automation should free energy. If it creates anxiety, it's not helping. If automation adds complexity you can't manage, it's not leverage. It's the new problem with a nicer name. So let's get practical. What are the best first automations? The best early automations are low risk, high reputation, easy to reverse, meaning if something goes wrong, you can turn it off without breaking your business. Here's the top early stage automations that almost always help. First, auto response or acknowledgement. Something like, "Thanks for reaching out. We received your message. Here's what happens next." This does two things: it builds trust and it buys you time. Second, scheduling. Calendar links, booking confirmations, reminders. Scheduling automation is powerful because it removes back and forth. Third, payment confirmation plus onboarding. Once payment is received, automatically send onboarding steps, what you need from them, what happens next, and timeline expectations. Fourth, simple follow up reminders, not aggressive, just consistent. A message like a quick follow up: "Do you want to move forward or should I close this for now?" That's clean and respectful. Fifth, internal tracking. Automatically record leads, stage channels, or form submissions in one place. A spreadsheet, a CRM, a note system, whatever you use. And notice something: none of this require deep judgment. That's why they are safe. Automation is best at predictable tasks. Humans are best at nuance. Now let's talk about what to not automate yet. Avoid automating anything that requires nuance, especially early on. Don't automate complex customer support decisions, smart personalized sales, sensitive negotiation, complicated approval, workflows, or anything you haven't done manually enough to understand the patterns. Because if you haven't learned the patterns, you don't know what you are automating. Automation is not where you go to discover your process, it's where you go after discovery. Here's a rule that keeps automation sane: the 20 times rule. If you haven't done a task manually at least 20 times, don't automate it yet. Doing something repeatedly teaches you what expectations occur, what customers misunderstand, what failure happens, what language works, and the real workflow actually is not what you wish it was. Automation should be built on reality, not guesses, because guesses create automation that break, and then you end up spending more time fixing automation than doing the work manually. Now, here is a principle that keeps automation from feeling cold. Automation should always have a human escape. A good automation has an escape hatch, meaning when the automation doesn't fit, the person can reach as a human. Examples: reply human to talk to a person. If this doesn't answer your issue, message us here. Need help? Click here to contact support. Automation without a human option feels like a wall, and walls reduce trust. Trust is still the foundation, even in a highly automated business. Now, let's end with one final reminder: keep automation simple and visible. Over automation creates complexity, so keep it minimum, visible, and easy to manage. The goal isn't to build a machine that impresses you, the goal is to remove friction. Here is a quick test. If you can't explain your automation in one sentence, it's probably too complex for you. Simplicity scales better than complexity. Alright, let's wrap this up. Automation is powerful, but it's not a shortcut to clarity. It multiplies what already exists. So standardize first, then automate low risk, high repetition tasks. Avoid automating new ones too early. Use the 20 times rule. Always include a human escape hatch. and keep automation simple and visible. In the next episode, we'll talk about how quality control system and how to maintain quality as you grow, even when help is involved, even when you are tired, because quality is your reputation and reputation compounds. Season 4 is about building leverage without losing trust. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last episode, we talked about automation that actually helps and the rule that automation multiplies whatever you already have. Today, we are talking about what protects your business long term quality control. Because when you grow, when you add customers, when you delegate, when you automate, quality naturally wants to drift. Not because people are bad, because complexity increases. And if you don't build quality control, your reputation becomes unstable. And reputation is what makes the next sale easier. So, in this episode, we are going to talk about maintaining standards without becoming rigid or obsessive. We are going to make this practical. What causes quality to drop? What quality control really is? And how to build a simple system that keeps your work consistent even as you scale. Let's start with why quality drops as you grow. Quality drops for predictable reason. First, you stop doing everything yourself, and that's the goal, but it changes the outcome because other people don't have your judgment yet. Second, more work means more fatigue. Even if you love what you do, volume creates tiredness and tiredness creates mistakes. Third, more customers mean more edge cases, more weird situations, more expectations, more this customer is different. Fourth, new helpers don't have your taste yet. They don't know what you consider good. They only know what you told them. Fifth, speed pressure increases. When demand goes up, there's this invisible pressure to move faster. And when speed becomes the priority, quality gets sacrificed quietly. Now, most founders respond to this by trying harder. They work more, they stress more, they micromanage more. But that approach doesn't scale. Quality requires structure, not heroics. So, what does quality control actually mean? Quality control is not perfection. Quality control is not obsessing over every detail. Quality control is simply defining what good looks like, checking for common failure points, and preventing rework and disappointment. Think of quality control as prevention. It's cheaper to prevent mistakes than fix them after the customer is unhappy. Cheaper in time, cheaper in money, and honestly, cheaper emotionally because fixing a mistake after delivery costs more than the mistake itself. It costs trust, it costs confidence, it costs mental energy. So, the point of quality control is to catch issues early when they are still small. Now let's build a simple quality control system. A good system has three parts. Part 1, standards, what good means. Part 2, checkpoints, where you verify before moving forward. Part 3, feedback loops, how you improve based on what goes wrong. Most businesses fail because they skip standard. They keep relying on vibe. They think we'll know if it's good when we see it, but vibe is inconsistent. Vibe changes with mood, energy, stress, and time pressure. Standards creates consistency. Standards make quality repeatable. Let's talk about part 1. Define your standards. Standards don't have to be complicated. They can be simple, clear statements. Examples of standards are a response time standard, a delivery format standard, a minimum quality standard, a communication tone standard. And the key is write them down, not as a long document, as a few clear statements you can actually follow. For example, every delivery includes X and Y and Z. Every customers get an update every 48 hours. No project is delivered without running the final checklist. Standards reduce judgment calls, and judgment calls consume energy. If you are deciding the same thing over and over again, you are burning mental fuel you could be using to improve the business. Now, part 2, checkpoints. Checkpoints are where you pause and verify. They are planned moments to catch issues before they become customer facing. Here are common checkpoints that work in most businesses. After onboarding, confirm scope and timeline. This prevents, wait, I thought this was included later. After the first draft or first version, verify alignment with requirements. This prevents you from moving too far in the wrong direction. Before final delivery, run the final checklist. This prevents misstepping, missing files, missing details, and oops moment. Checkpoints prevent oops. They create predictability, and predictability builds trust. And here is something important: checkpoints don't slow you down long term, they speed you up before reducing rework. Rework is the real time killer. Now, part 3, the feedback loop. Every quality problem is data, and this is where founders usually get emotional. They get frustrated, they blame people, they blame themselves. But the system's first way is different. When something goes wrong, you ask, why did this error happen? Was the step unclear? Was the checklist missing a step? Was the standard not defined? Was the customer expectation unrealistic? Then you update the system. The goal is not to blame people. The goal is to improve the machine. A business becomes stable when mistakes becomes rare, not because you are perfect, but because you learn structurally. Now let's talk about quality control when you have helpers, because this is where quality drifts faster. When you delegate, quality control must be explicit. Use example outputs. Show what good looks like. Use the definition of done, not finish the task. But here is what finished means. Use a review process for the first deliveries. Review the first three outputs closely, then reduce supervision as the standard becomes consistent, and use gradual independence. Don't hand someone full responsibility on day one. Let them earn trust step by step. Most founders make one big mistake here. They expect helpers to have their test immediately. Test takes time, so you build the bridge with standards and examples. Alright, let's work this up. Quality control isn't perfection. It's a structure that keeps your work consistent as complexity increases. So remember the three parts: standards, define what good means; checkpoints, verify before moving forward; feedback loops, turn mistakes into system improvement; and why, when you have helpers, make quality explicit. Examples, definitions, early review, and gradual independence. In the next episode, we'll talk about something that turns chaos into clarity: weekly operation reviews. A simple weekly review system that helps you spot problems early and improve the business every week. Season 4 is about building a business that improves itself. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last episode, we talked about quality control, how to maintain standards while scaling without relying on hero level effort. Today, we are talking about a habit that turns a business from chaotic to controlled: a weekly operations review. And let me set expectations right away. This is not a long meeting, this is not corporate bureaucracy. This is a simple 30-minute weekly routine that helps you spot problems early, improve systems continuously, and reduce stress over time. If you do this consistently, your business starts improving itself, not because it becomes easy, but because you stop drifting and start managing. Let's talk about why businesses feel out of control. Most businesses feel out of control because the founder is living reactively. They wake up, they respond to messages, urgent issues, random tasks, customer requests, and there is no time to step back. But here's the problem: without stepping back, you can't see patterns. The business improvement requires pattern recognition. If you're always in the moment, always reacting, you can't spot what keeps repeating. You can't see what keeps breaking. You can't see what keeps slowing you down. A weekly review creates a moment where you stop reacting and start managing. So, what is a weekly operational review really? A weekly operational review is a quick check of key numbers, a review of what broke, a review of what worked, and one improvement decision for next week. That's it. It's not complicated. The power is consistency. You are building a habit of observing, deciding, and improving. Observe what's happening, decide what matters most, improve one thing. This is how operations mature, not through one big overhaul, through small weekly upgrades. Now I'm going to give you a simple 5-part weekly review you can follow every week. Same structure, same order, same question. Part 1. Check your pipeline. Ask yourself how many new leads came in, how many active conversations are still open, how many deals are waiting on decision, how many current customers are in delivery, what deliveries are due next. The goal here is simple. Know what's active, because when you don't know what's active, you start forgetting things and then you start firefighting. Part 2. Check delivery performance. Ask, did we deliver on time this week? Did we sleep? What caused rework? What caused delays? You are not looking for bottlenecks, not blame bottlenecks, because bottlenecks are where your businesses get stuck. Part 3. Check support volume. Ask what questions repeated, what issues appeared, what created urgency, what customers seem confused about. Support tells where your systems are unclear. Repeated questions are rarely customer problems, they are usually documentation problems. Path 4. Check key metrics. Keep it simple. You don't need a dashboard, you track reality. Things like conversation started, payments received, repeated customers or retention, referrals. The goal here is not vanity, it's awareness. Path 5. Choose one improvement, not 10. 1. One system improvement that will reduce friction next week. And this is the part that makes the review powerful because it turns observation into action. Now let's talk about why one improvement is the rule. Founders are often ambitious. They want to fix everything. They see 10 problems and they want to solve all 10. But improvement overload turns into nothing because you try to do too much and you end up implementing none of it consistently. One improvement per week means you actually implement, you build momentum, and changes become measurable. And over a year, one improvement per week is 52 upgrades. That's huge. That's how boring consistency beats dramatic effort. This is how real operations are built. Let me give you an example of what a weekly improvement might look like, because it doesn't need to be big. It can be creating a template for repeated support questions, adding one checkpoint to prevent common mistake, adjusting onboarding to collect missing information, simplifying your pricing explanation, shortening the delivery workflow, defining support hours more clearly, or building one small automation for follow ups. Small changes compound. You are not building perfection, you are building stability. And stability is what makes scaling possible. Now, what do you do with problems you can't fix yet? Because not every problem can be solved in a week. Here is a simple approach. Sort problems into three buckets. Fix now. Small, quick, high impact. Schedule. Important but needs time. Put it in a list with a date. Ignore. Low impact, not worth your energy. This sorting step is powerful because unsorted problems create anxiety. Your brain keeps carrying them like open tabs. Sorted problems create calm because you have decided what happens next, even if next is later. Now let's make this a real habit because consistency is everything here. Choose a consistent time. It could be every Friday afternoon, every Sunday evening, or every Monday morning. But pick one. Same time, same structure, same question. And here is why this matters. When the habit is consistent, it becomes automatic. And when the habit becomes automatic, your business becomes predictable. Predictability is freedom because predictable businesses don't require constant mental effort just to stay afloat. Alright, let's wrap this up. A weekly operation review is simple 30-minute habit that turns chaos into control. You step back, you see patterns, you track reality, and you improve one thing each week. That's how businesses get stronger over time, not through hero moments, but through small repeated upgrades. In the next episode, we'll talk about something that makes scaling possible: standard operating procedure, SOPs, without making them complicated. Because SOPs are how businesses stop demanding on memory. Season 4 is about turning your work into a machine. Thanks for listening. See you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last episode, we built a weekly operations review, a 30-minute habit that helps you spot problems early and improve continuously. Today, we are building the next layer of operational maturity, SOPs, Standard Operating Procedures. And I know those words sound corporate. They sound like big company paperwork, but SOPs are not about being corporate. SOPs are about removing dependence on memory. Because if your business lives in your head, it will always be fragile. It works when you are sharp. It breaks when you are tired. It breaks when demand increases. And it breaks the moment you bring in help. SOPs turn your business into something repeatable, something that works even when you are not operating at 100%. So today we are going to make SOPs simple. Let's start with why SOPs feel intimidating. Most people avoid SOPs because they imagine long manuals, complicated rules, bureaucracy, paperwork, but SOP can be one page, and SOP can be a checklist, and SOP is simply how we do this here. That's it. If you can explain a task clearly to a new person, you can create an SOP. And if you can't explain it clearly, that's actually a signal. It means the process is still living in your instincts instead of your systems. So, what do SOPs actually do? SOPs do three things. First, they reduce mistakes because people don't have to guess. Second, they reduce training time. New people learn faster because you are not starting from zero. Third, they increase consistency, and consistency is what customers feel as professionalism. SOPs are not about control, they are about predictability, and predictability creates trust. Trust is what makes your business grow. Now, let's talk about what you should SOP first because you shouldn't SOP everything. If you try to document your whole business at once, you will burn out and stop. So, SOP, what is frequent, important, prone to mistakes, hard to remember, and painful when done wrong. Common early SOPs include lead intake process, sales structure, onboarding steps, delivery workflow, support triage, and a final quality checklist before delivery. These create immediate stability because they cover the areas that create most chaos when they are unclear. Now I'm going to give you a simple SOP format you can use for almost any task. This keeps SOPs short and usable. Here's the format. First, purpose. Why does this SOP exist? What problem does it prevent? Second, when to use. When does this process apply? Third, inputs required. What do you need before starting? Fourth, steps. The sequence, what happens first, second, third. Fifth, quality check. How do you verify done before you send it out? Sixth, common mistakes. What should people avoid? That's it. And here's the important part. If an SOP is too long, nobody uses it. So your job is not to write an essay. Your job is to write something people can actually follow. Let me give you a simple example. A support SOP, just so you can hear what this sounds like in real life. Purpose. Respond to customer questions consistently without chaos. When to use. Whenever a customer requests help. Inputs required customer name, issue summary, order or project status. Steps. Step 1. Classify the issue as level 1, level 2 or level 3. Level 1 is simple. Quick answer, FAQ link, small clarification. Level 2 is important, requires action or investigation. Give a timeline and schedule it. Level 3 is critical. Payment issue, system down, high risk problem, escalate immediately. Step 2. Respond using the correct template or FAQ. Step 3. Confirm the next step and the expected timeline. Step 4. Record the issue category for tracking. Quality check. Customer receives a response within 24 hours and the next step is clear. Common mistakes. Treating everything as urgent and replying emotionally. Giving vague timelines. That's an SOP. Simple, usable, repeatable. Now, here's a key mindset: SOPs must evolve. SOPs are not permanent laws, SOPs are living documents. Every time something breaks, you ask, do we need a new step? Was the SOP unclear? Did the checklist miss a common mistake? Did the standards change? Then you update the SOP. This is how businesses become smarter over time. Businesses don't become stable by avoiding mistake. They become stable by learning systematically. Now, where should you store SOPs? You don't need fancy software. Store SOPs where they can be found quickly. Google Docs, Notion works, a folder with clear name works. Even a printed binder works if that's what your team will be using. The key is not the tool. The key is easy access, clear naming, short usable instruction. Because if people can't find SOPs, they don't exist. Alright, let's work this up. SOPs don't need to be corporate, they need to be clear. They remove dependence on memory. They make work repeatable. They make delegation safer. And they protect quality as demand increases. Start small. SOP what's frequent and painful. Use this simple format. Purpose, when to use, inputs, steps, quality check, common mistakes, and update SOPs over time based on what works. The next episode will talk about scaling decisions, when to add people, when to add tools, and when to simplify. Because scale isn't only about growth, scale is about choosing the right kind of expansion at the right time. Season 4 is about building a business that can handle success. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last episode, we talked about SOPs, how to build simple procedures that remove dependency on memory. Today, we are talking about a decision every growing business eventually faces. When things get busy, do you scale by hiring people, adding tools, or simplifying the business? Most founders choose based on decision. They feel pressure, they feel behind, and they grab the first solution that feels like relief. So they either hire too early, buy too many tools, or keep piling complexity until they collapse. This episode is about making scaling choices with discipline. So growth increases output without increasing chaos. Let's start with why scaling decisions go wrong. Scaling decisions go wrong because pressure is high. When you are overwhelmed, your brain wants fast relief. You feel behind, you feel overloaded, you feel impatient. So you grab a solution quickly, but scaling is not adding. Scaling is increasing output without increasing chaos. If your solution increases chaos, you didn't scale. You just made the business more complex, and complexity is sneaky. It feels like progress at first. More features, more services, more tools, more people, but then it becomes harder to manage. And suddenly, growth feels terrifying instead of exciting. So, there are three paths of scale: people, tools, simplification. First, people. You add hands, support, and capacity. Second, tools. You automate, track, speed up, reduce manual work. Third, simplification. You reduce scope, reduce variation, reduce complexity. All three can be correct, but the right one depends on what is actually breaking, and this is important. Most founders skip the diagnosis and go straight to treatment, and that's why they choose the wrong thing. So, how do you choose the right path? You ask one question: what is the bottleneck? What is the thing that is actually limiting the growth right now? Common bottlenecks look like too many tasks for one person, too much annual repetition, too much variation in delivery, too many customer types, and too many support requests. Your solution must match the bottleneck. Here's a simple mapping. People fix bandwidth problems, tools fix repetition problem, simplification fixes complexity problem. And here is where most founders get it wrong. They hire to fix complexity, but hiring doesn't fix complexity. It usually multiplies it because now you have complexity and coordination and training. So when should you scale with people? Scale with people when tasks are repeatable and documented. Work volume is high and predictable. You know what good looks like, and you can train someone using SOPs, because hiring without documentation turns into a training full time. And that's not skill, it just shifts your workload. So here's the rule: hire when the process is clear, not when you are panicking. If you hire in panic, you usually hire fast, train poorly, and get disappointed. Not because the person is bad, because the system wasn't ready. Now, when should you scale with tools? Scale with tools when the same tasks happen repeatedly. You can define triggers and outcomes clearly. Error happens because of forgetfulness, not judgment, and the automation is low risk. Tools should remove friction, they should reduce steps. They should remove back and forth. They should reduce mental load. But if tools create new complexity, new logins, new dashboards, new workflows, you don't understand. They are not helping. And here's the key: tools less important than process clarity. A good process with simple tools beats a messy process with expensive softwares every time. Now let's talk about the most underrated scaling strategy: simplification. Simplification is often the fastest way to scale because it reduces the burden of operations. Simplify when you offer too many variations. You customize too much. Customers confuse your offer. Support volume is high because your service is complicated. Delivery feels inconsistent. Simplification can look like narrowing your offer, removing low value services, standardizing packages, tightening scope. And here's the surprising truth: many businesses don't need more people, they need less complexity. Simplification increases speed and quality without hiring. It reduces mistakes, it reduces support, it reduces training time. It's not always glamorous, but it's powerful. Now let's end with a mature rule that protects you from bad scaling decisions. First, fix the process before you add people or tool. Ask, can we remove steps? Can we template this? Can we clarify onboarding? Can we reduce support by improving documentation? Can we reduce variation in delivery? If you fix the process, everything else becomes easier. Hiring becomes easier. Automation becomes safer. Growth becomes calmer. But if you don't fix the process, every new person and tools add layers of confusion, and the business becomes harder to manage, not easier. All right, let's work this up. Scaling isn't adding more, scaling is increasing output without increasing chaos. So choose based on the bottleneck: people for bandwidth, tools for repetition, simplification for complexity. And remember the rule: fix the process first. In the next episode, we'll close season 4 with a full perspective: scaling without losing your life, because a business that grows but destroys you is not success. Season 4 is about building something that can hold success calmly. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back. This is the final episode of season 4, and if you've made it this far, you already know what this season was really about. Not hustle, not hype, not working harder. This season was about operations, systems instead of hustle, documentation, intake, sales structure, onboarding, delivery systems, support systems, capacity, delegation, automation, quality control, weekly reviews, SOPs, scaling choices. So now we close with the most important question: how do you scale without losing your life? Because many businesses grow and the founder becomes the sacrifice. That's not success, that's trap. This finale is about building a business that can grow without turning your life into an emergency mode forever. Let's talk about why scale often destroys founders. Scale destroys founders for a simple reason: they confuse growth with progress. They think if I'm busy, I'm winning. But business can be a sign of weak systems. It can be a sign that the business still depends on you doing everything manually. So when demand increases, A founder without system becomes a customer supporter agent, a project manager, a salesperson, a delivery worker, a firefighter, all at once. That's not entrepreneurship. That's a fragile job with high stress. And the worst part is, it feels normal because the business is growing. So you tell yourself you should be grateful. But being grateful doesn't stop burnout, only structure does. So, what's the real goal of scaling? The real goal of scaling is not more customers, more revenue, more visibility. Those are outcomes. They are not the goal. The goal is increasing output without increasing chaos. If chaos increases with growth, you are not scaling. You are expanding instability. Scaling should create more stability, more predictability, more control. If it doesn't, something is missing. And usually, what's missing is simple operations infrastructure. Now, if you want to scale without losing your life, you have to protect three things: your time, your energy, and your attention. Let's break those down. First, your time. If customers can access you anytime, you will never think deeply. And without deep thinking, your systems don't improve. Second, your energy. If your business depends on you being on constantly, your health may pay the bill. Maybe not this month, but eventually. Third, your attention. If you are interrupted all day, you can't improve systems. You can only survive. Business don't collapse only when money disappears. They collapse when attention disappears because the founder becomes incapable of managing the machine. So protect attention like an asset because it is. Now let's talk about a rule that changes the entire founder experience. That is designing your week. Most founders live in a reactive time. They wake up and respond. Messages decide their day. Urgent issues decide their day. Random tasks decide their day. A sustainable founder designs their week, not in a rigid way, just in a structured way. For example, specific hours for deep work, specific hours for support, specific hours for sales calls, and a specific time for the weekly review. This isn't strict, it's structural, and structure creates calm. Calm quality increases retention. Retention reduces pressure. So, structure is not restriction, structure is freedom. Now, let's be clear about something that founders try to avoid, that is, boundaries. If you want to scale, boundaries are not optional. Boundaries include support hours, response time expectations, scope rules, onboarding requirements, payment terms. Boundaries create predictability. Without boundaries, your business becomes shaped by the loudest customer, not the best customer, the loudest one. And that's not a business, that's a stress machine. So if you've ever felt like your business controls you, it usually means boundaries are missing somewhere. And the fix is not motivation, the fix is a rule. Now, here's the key idea that makes scaling without losing your life possible. Remove yourself from low value loops. Scaling doesn't mean you do more, scaling means you do less of what you don't require. Low value loops include repeated explanations, basic support questions, scheduling back and forth, repeated formatting tasks, repetitive admin work. This is exactly where templates, SOPs, automation, and delegation matter. Because a good founder is not a hero. A good founder is a designer of systems. A hero saves the day again and again. A system prevents the fire in the first place. Now, I want to give you a peaceful scale checklist. This is a quick way to know if your growth will help you or hurt you. If you grow by twice, do you have documented process, clear onboarding, a stable delivery workflow, quality checkpoints, support boundaries, a weekly operational review, a clear scope and pricing? If the answer is no, growth will most likely hurt, not because you are not capable, but because the business isn't structured for that kind of pressure yet. So, your job is to build capacity before pressure hits, not after you are drowning. Alright, Let's close season 4. Season 4 was about building infrastructure, and infrastructure is not glamorous, but it is what holds the business. If you apply what we covered, your business will feel calmer, cleaner, more predictable, and more professional. And most importantly, it will not require you to suffer to function. Thank you for listening and congratulations because building system is one of the rarest business skills. I'll see you in the next season.